Hey, it's Courtney with the Highly Sensitive Badass, and today I want to make a video for non-highly sensitive people. So for you highly sensitive people, this is a video you can share with your non-highly sensitive friend, parent, spouse, partner, whoever is in your life who's not highly sensitive, because it's such a common thread that non-highly sensitive people just don't get it. And it's totally fine because we are just wired differently. And so I'm laughing because for years I really wanted my husband to just understand me and get me. And finally, I just had this realization that he's not going to get me because he's wired totally differently than I am, just as I am never going to fully get him because he's wired differently than me. And I did spend my whole life kind of wondering what the heck all these other people, why everyone seems so different from me. And mostly it's because 80% of the population is non-highly sensitive and 20% is. So I was mostly wondering at these 80%, like, why are they so different from me? And why am I such a weirdo? So I wanted to make this video just to kind of bridge a little bit of understanding between highly sensitive and non-highly sensitive people. So I'm making this video for this awesome woman who commented on another video of mine and said that she had her husband watch my videos so he could understand a little bit more about what the heck this whole highly sensitive thing is actually about. So, and that was awesome because I have been wanting to make this video for a while, and that kind of pushed me over the edge. So here it is. Okay, so the first thing is, if you are a non-highly sensitive person, that does not mean that you are not a sensitive person. It just means you're not a highly sensitive person. So I really encourage you, actually, regardless if you're highly sensitive or not highly sensitive, to take the quiz on my website at thehighlysensitivebadass.com. There's a quiz on there you can take, and you will find out from answering yes or no to a series of questions if you would be considered highly sensitive. Chances are that you are, like my husband, he's not a highly sensitive person, is still sensitive. He answered 10 yeses to the questions, whereas for me, on a scale of, I think there's about 23 questions on there, I answered yes to 22 of them. So that kind of gives you an idea of my sensitivity in relation to his sensitivity. So take the test because it'll just enlighten you in general about what this whole highly sensitive thing is about anyway. And so, sorry, I have a little cold today, so excuse my voice. So let me explain a little bit about what a highly sensitive person is. So essentially, it's a trait you're born with. 20% of the population is born as highly sensitive, with a highly sensitive nervous system. Animals are even born highly sensitive. So I had a highly sensitive dog who passed away in October, and what this is essentially, I'm a visual person, so I like to explain it in this way. I imagine non-highly sensitive people have kind of this like filter that surrounds them, where all this external stimuli that's happening kind of bounces off and does not really affect you quite as much. Highly sensitive people do not have this filter. Everything going on around them impacts them in a deeper way. So it's this nervous system. So everything is absorbed by the nervous system in a deeper way than non-highly sensitive people. So what that means is that things in the environment that are around you, and this could be sounds, smells, lighting, music, conversation, and I hate to use the new agey word energy, but like people's moods. People who are sensitive kind of tend to be sensitive to everything that's happening around them, and they don't filter it out in the same way. So what this can lead to are both positives and negatives. So the positive are that we can be incredibly like energized and moved by really wonderful sensory information. And on the other hand, we are very depleted, drained, and overstimulated by non-positive or negative sensory information. So you might notice that the person you're with may like to spend a lot of time by themselves. And the reason is that we are more overstimulated on a regular basis than non-highly sensitive people. So we need these strategies and these tools that we sometimes unknowingly develop for ourselves to rebuild our energy for ourselves so that we can show up in the world again. And some things that happen when this energy is depleted, we can get kind of snappy. We as I said, like to be alone a lot. We just need massive self-care. Like we need that opportunity to really build our energy back up so that we're not constantly like reaching this tipping point of moving into overwhelm. So we need that time for regenerating our energy. And so the one thing I'll encourage you, if you're not highly sensitive, is don't take it personally. My husband and I have been married for 15 years. I mentioned he's not highly sensitive. It has been a challenge, to be honest, because he takes it personally. Sometimes if I want to be by myself and he wants to be with me, he doesn't understand, why don't you want to be with me? And it can be hard for us, but I truly just need to be alone sometimes, or I become like this like cranky, mean person. And so in some way it's like it's my coping mechanism. Like I don't want to be a cranky, mean person, and I know that I know what I need in order to show up as like happy Courtney. And I'm much more fun to be around when I'm taking care of myself and when I'm given the space to be able to take care of myself. But that can be hard for someone who doesn't totally get that and doesn't have that same need for space that I do. So that's one thing, is it's truly not a personal thing. It's not a personal attack. It doesn't mean that we don't love you or love being around you. It just means that in that moment, we need that time to ourselves to recoup and regain our energy. Um, so what are some of the other habits you might notice? So the goods and the bad. So the good news is that we are very in tune with everything around us. So you may notice that your partner, friend, whoever is very sensitive to your moods, which is great in that we tend to be very intuitive with people. We know what makes people feel comfortable, or if they're not comfortable, we are very in tune with other people. We understand usually on a certain level that people are feeling good or they're feeling bad. And so a lot of us tend to go into more like a lot of the therapists are probably very sensitive people who are in kind of a caring profession. We can be very loving and caring because we tend to be very empathic, very compassionate people, really big-hearted people very often. So those are some traits I've noticed. So highly sensitive people tend to have a very big spiritual life. We tend to love have a very strong spiritual connection. One thing is that we tend to also love being in deep relationships with just a few people instead of being in very social relationships, more on like a surface level, like more acquaintance type relationships. We just kind of like zone in on just a few deep relationships. We can be very loyal, so that is one characteristic I've noticed as well. We tend to just love sensory experiences, so love music and art, dance. Food is a sensory experience. I love food. So, those kinds of things tend to really please us. We may be very sensitive to textures, like how things feel on our skin. Very sensitive to the lighting in the room. Like my husband is constantly messing with my lighting and it drives me crazy. I've like lit the candles, have all the lights just like I like them because it generates a mood in me that feels really good. So we're very feeling. You may also notice that is that we have a lot of very big feelings, and these run the gamut from really intense happiness, really intense sadness, anger, all of those feelings. For us, I think they're amplified in some way to be even bigger than perhaps you experience them. And we are, what else? There's so many things. We're so amazing. One thing is one thing we need from you, which would be wonderful, is some understanding, because truly a lot of us, this is not an easy way to be in the world. It just isn't. It can be really challenging for a lot of us, especially because we feel so much and because we're so in tune to everything, we feel like very intense grief sometimes over stuff going on in the world. You may notice that the person who's highly sensitive gets very easily upset by any news that's negative. Things in the world kind of hit us very hard and very deeply. So, understanding us and giving us some love and compassion would be awesome. And what else is there? I had a whole bullet list. I feel like I've hit most of these things. But If you have any questions, I would like to say if you're highly sensitive watching this and I missed something, will you please comment below so that I can add it in another video? The other thing is if you're non highly sensitive and you have a question, I would love to hear from you. Please comment below and ask me your question. I think that would be great. I would love to answer your question. Visit my website, The Highly Sensitive Badass, and you can take the quiz that's on there to just learn more about being highly sensitive or to find out if you are or if you're not. And then the other thing is I have an ebook that I wrote, and I would love for you to download that. You can get that on my website as well. And so I hope this was helpful. I think it can be really challenging on both fronts. If you're sensitive or not highly sensitive, sometimes that merging of relationships can be a bit of a challenge. And so I hear you. I've been there. I think on both ends. My husband could do his own video on what it's like to be married to a highly sensitive person. So I get it on both sides. But anyway, I hope this video was somewhat helpful. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.